Okay, Keith Myers here again. This is going to be lesson 2 from the Manual del Baratero. 2 important concepts. The first one is what is in the manual called terreno. Terreno translates as boundary or range or terrain. You know, terreno, terrain. It's a similar idea. But when the manual describes it, it says specifically that the terreno is the length of the tirador's arm and the length of his blade. And there's my terreno and there's the opponent's terreno. So really, in the context of the manual, it's talking about the reach. My reach and the opponent's reach, which is very important. I have to understand what my reach is so I know when he's in range of me landing a blow. And likewise, I have to understand what his reach is to know how to stay just out of range of reaching a blow. So terreno is reach or range. Okay, so also another important concept in the manual is corridas. Corridas. Corridas means a pathway, right? Probably the same word that we get from the English corridor. It leads somewhere, a corridas. And in the context of the manual, it strikes me that the way it's used is just like the word zufechten in the German fencing manuals for the German longsword. Zufechten means to fence, or towards fencing, or it's meant in the German context to mean that period of time leading up to the exchange, your preparatory time, your face-off, your maneuvering, you're gauging the opponent, you know, you're getting ready to engage, ready to fence, zufechten. In the same way, corridas, the corridor, your pathway, this is leading into an exchange. We're facing off, we're maneuvering, because sometimes in the manual, the context makes it sound like it's talking about specific footwork. Sometimes it's talking about just facing off. So again, just conceptually, that period, the corridas, is when I'm faced off and we're just circling each other, right? That preparatory period, that feeling out period, okay? That's corridas in my mind. Now, I've got Bob a little close here. It also describes it as being a semicircle in front of my opponent. So you can imagine, this is Spanish knife is obviously probably also heavily influenced by the aristocratic Spanish rapier fencing, right? Rodada de destreza, the Spanish fencing, Spanish rapier. And that was based on the Spanish circle, the mysterious circle, all the footwork's on the circle. So same way here, the manual talks about facing off, and I am in a semicircle in front of my opponent. And likewise, he is following a semicircle that's in front of me, right? So our two semicircles combined make a complete circle. So as I'm moving, another reason why the manual describes the square stance instead of 1 foot forward is because as I'm facing my opponent, he's out in front of me, and I'm moving in a semicircle in front of him. So I'm always staying at the same distance from my opponent, but I'm not standing stock still. I'm maneuvering. I'm maneuvering one direction or the other. And if I'm in a square stance, I can go either direction pretty easily, right? I can switch hands and suddenly be here, back and forth. That's maneuvering in this corridas, in this corridor in front of the opponent, in a semicircle, right? Sometimes left, sometimes right. And the manual says you don't have to do a lot of dancing around. So sometimes you may be maneuvering in an area that's only about 3 feet. So maybe I'm just moving this much, but I'm still seeing my opponent as standing in front of me in the center of a circle, and I'm maneuvering along the edge, the circumference of that semicircle that's in front of me. That's important. So I'm always maintaining the same distance. Now, what should that distance be? That distance is at least 2 terrenos, right? I want to be far enough away that neither one of us can reach the other, right? So my terreno plus his terreno, that's kind of the distance we're at, because when I move forward, then I'm within his terreno, I'm within his striking distance. So I'm staying out of his striking distance. So at the minimum, I'm just at the edge of his terreno, just past his reach. Well, he can't really get me, right? I can move away. But the danger is a fast step in and I'm hit. So really what it describes is the 2 terreno distance, mine and his. So he has to take a pretty big step to be able to reach me. This is kind of the preliminary feeling out stage. As I'm moving, I subtly shorten that distance a little bit as I'm going until he doesn't realize I've closed the distance, and then I go in. But the whole idea here is the concept of the terreno is my reach and his reach, and corridas is that semicircular area, that pre-fight, maneuvering around, kind of feeling things out, leading into an exchange. Okay? So that's kind of how I see that as lesson 2.